So if you and your business partner are looking to team up and you're looking to self-perform together, you guys would have to put a lot of work in place to capture two owners' salaries and two owners' rates while being on the job. For me, I don't live in a market where that makes sense. If I put 2x my labor on a job, I'd have to have 3 or 4 people on the job producing that amount of work, or else it just doesn't make sense. It's not an equitable investment for my clients. So I have to align myself with somebody that is a lower rate in order to make it work and to remain competitive, or I have to put more work in place. So that's one of the biggest issues that I see with two owners of a company. Unless you grow, unless you scale, or unless somebody's fully owning just the back end paperwork of the business and then somebody's owning the field work, it's going to be hard to absorb the costs of both of you and the overhead of a 2-owner business doing 1.5 times the amount of work. You have to scale up at that point in order to capture 2 owners' rates in residential construction, right? So you're going to have to do a lot more work. Somebody's going to have to just manage the field work. Somebody's going to have to manage the office work, and you're going to have to put more work in place, way more than 1.5 times that, in order to absorb the cost of that. So some of the advantage of this, right? There's real advantages to the mental relief and the shared emotional load. It's having a partner, it's having a wife, it's having somebody who can understand what you're going through, and you're going to tackle this at the same time, even if it's not a quantifiable amount, right? Or it's not a tangible amount. There's somebody there on your team that has your back, and there's something to be said for that. That's real. And you may not be able to place a number on that, but that is something that is absolutely real. And at times, pie in the sky, I wish I had a business partner that could take half of this burden, or, hey, this person, it'd be really nice to bring this person on and they can own part of this business. I'll give them stake in the business. But realistically, that's really tough to do. So you will have higher quality if you guys are self-performing. There's a higher quality control. I would argue anyone that somebody who self-performs and quality is a concern for them, that they're going to get better results subcontracting. It's going to cost more if you're subcontracting it, because the amount of management that it would take and communication and the systems that you would have to create to get that level of detail. Smaller company with the owner of the job wearing a tool belt, you're going to get a higher quality job if quality is the utmost important to them. And I will take that one to the grave. So you're looking to have some flexibility in your workload, being able to self-perform, being able to sub out. I think that's good. You're not pigeonholing yourself. You guys will have the ability to take on multiple projects at a time, which I think is going to be necessary for you. Again, that 1.5 times work is a concern for me. I think that you're going to have to take on more than that, and it's going to be through multiple projects, which is it might put you in a space that you're looking to get out of right now, to be honest, unless you guys have clearly defined roles and one person's handling the back end, one person's handling the field work, but then that's going to take your model of self-performing out the window. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. So there's some flaws right now that I'm seeing within what your needs are, what your hopes are, and what the business model will actually afford you guys. So that's something that I would really consider with both of you guys on the job, or at times self-performing, then both of you handling the business. And is there overlap? Are there inefficiencies because somebody's not picking up where the other person left off? You have the ability to create a division of strengths and to have accountability with each other, right? You can dedicate somebody to client management, somebody to estimating, somebody to carpentry, somebody scheduling, pre-con, financials. I think that this is really the path forward for you guys, but you have to make sure that you do it in a way that doesn't get you into that vicious cycle that you feel you're in right now, where you're just doing everything and nothing's getting done at the same time. So some of the cons, which I guess I just listed while I was talking about the pros, but you have to make sure that there are not undefined roles, because undefined roles lead to resentment. When somebody says they're going to do something and then they don't do it, or they get sidetracked. I mean, Nick and I are partners in a podcast, and there's times where the communication isn't there. Nick's doing one thing, I'm doing another. We don't have shared values. We don't have alignment. But at the end of the day, Nick and I understand this is not our primary income. It is not our main job. We have other things in our lives that consume our time and are priorities for us. So we're of the mindset where let's do as much as we can. I'll pick up the slack when you don't have time for it, and vice versa, but it's not our main source of income. If it was our main source of income, there may be resentment there if I'm making all the money and Nick's doing nothing. If Nick's making all the money and I'm doing nothing. But it's been almost 10 years that we've been in business together, and we understand there's ebbs and flows, and this is a side venture for us, so it creates less resentment, less stress for us. If we don't make money, it's okay. We're doing it because we feel that we have a greater impact, and we're not looking as the podcast to support our lifestyles. So you have to understand when you're self-performing that it can fully affect your profitability depending on what type of business you are running. Are you T&M? Are you lump sum? Are you cost plus, right? Self-performing versus subcontracting, what that looks like, how contractually you are protecting yourselves there, how to avoid scope creep, misallocation of time. There's all of these things that you need to be aware of and ensure that you're protecting your profitability, because ultimately that's going to be really, really important when you have two business owners in a very small business. There's just not a lot of pie to go around, and you have to make sure that you're both getting a big enough piece of pie to satiate your needs. Understand that you guys may have different risk tolerance. So have a discussion about how much risk you're looking to take on, what type of jobs, bigger jobs, more subcontractors, what you feel like with regard to debt, equipment, hiring, all of those considerations. Now you have two people who may have two different risk tolerances that you need to ensure are on the same page. And then the 50-50 profit split, you have to make sure that people are accounting for 50-50, right? It's not as though you have somebody on your team who you could replace, you could hire out. You have two people who really are part of that business and vital to that business, and they're not going anywhere. So you have to make sure that if it's 50-50, that 50% of the work is going into it. So some pinch points that I think you guys might hit early on in this venture, just roles, again, estimating, pricing, who's estimating, who's doing the work, who's covering the field, how are you getting paid for that, how are you tracking cost, how are you accounting for that in your overhead, ensuring that you're not a business where you're just doing all of that for free, especially when you have somebody who is allocated to those tasks now and they have other stuff to do during the day. You have to make sure that you're capturing the cost of all of that back end work, which is tough when you're a small business. I know I struggle with it. I've found ways in my business to do that, but you have to make sure that, especially when that's somebody's clearly defined, distinct role, that you're covering that cost. How are you handling the pre-con? Right? Is that just one person? Is client expectations fielding those calls? Is there a better salesman of the two of you? You have to understand what that looks like. Again, just the tool belt time versus the business time. Is that something that you're both sharing? How are you splitting that? Are you just looking for the emotional support here? Are you really looking to create a business, right? Is this just to make you feel as though somebody has your back? Or are you looking to grow a two-man business? It's really hard to be small, but it's really a lot harder to be small with two owners of a business. And that's probably why you don't see this a lot.